As young women, we face many issues, from the pressures of social media to the expectation of society. We see how these issues affect us and our mental health every day. But what about men?
In present day, there doesn't seem to be much acceptance for men to talk about their feelings and mental health as much as there is for women.
We want to investigate, and what better than to speak to men? All different kinds of men with different kinds of lives on different issues that affect them, asking all sorts about what it's like being a man.
Suicide is the biggest killer in men aged 20 to 49.
But why aren't we talking about it?
We're going to find out.
So we are Hol, Nat and Liv, and today's episode is on masculinity.
So if someone asked me what masculinity means, I'd say big, strong, typical manly man with muscles.
Yeah.
However, is that the actual, is that what masculinity is to people? So the definition of masculinity actually is...
Within this episode, we plan to talk to lots of different men from different backgrounds, different jobs, different sexualities. Does their opinion on masculinity differ because of their lives? Is it important for a man to be masculine? Do they think it's important for a man to be masculine?
And does it affect their mental health, the pressures of trying to be masculine in today's society?
Yeah.
So we actually found this campaign called the Boys Can Be Princesses Too campaign, and we thought it was really interesting. It caused a big debate online, which is where we found it. So we wanted to go out and see what people thought about this.
The Boys Can Be Princesses Too campaign was created by photographer Kitty Wolfe to show young boys that they can be anything they want. Her photos show boys dressed up as their favourite Disney princesses and posing next to the likes of Belle, Ariel and Cinderella. It caused a big debate online, with a number of people claiming that it was emasculating and how boys should just be boys. So we want to find out what the public thought of this. So today we're at Birmingham City University.
And we're here to speak to people about the Boys Can Be Princesses Too campaign.
Let's see what they think.
Would you let your son wear a dress?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a son. Yeah, if he wanted to, yeah.
If you had a son.
No.
It'd probably be an interesting situation. I think I'd probably be more worried about them being bullied and picked on.
Well, I don't see why not.
My son wanted to wear a dress. Wow. Yeah, no, fine. I don't see it being a problem.
If that's what he wanted to wear, that'd be fine. It's up to him.
Wear a dress. A dress is for ladies only, right?
I have a daughter. She wears trousers. So, yeah.
What do you think of this campaign called Boys Can Be Princesses Too?
He's loving it. Look at him.
I think the children look as though they're enjoying themselves, they're happy and they're comfortable, and actually it's...
And I think we go into, I can think of a nursery school that I go to, and the boys are dressed up, riding around on the bikes in dresses, and they're just it's not an issue.
Sometimes I think it's more a case of people are trying to create shock factors to get talking points on social media and that now.
I think that's good. If whatever they're comfortable with, if they're comfortable with it, what's the problem?
And I like this message here. It says, because no child should feel ashamed of the things that bring them joy. And that's exactly it. You know, what is it you define that makes you happy? And peace of mind is priceless. So I don't see it as an issue, and I think it's a very good campaign.
It's interesting. It's not something that you're accustomed to seeing.
Raving in it.
The bringing up to be
a bit of a weird one.
More of a female than a male, I think.
He's not going to be one of the lads.
If kids want to do that, they'll do it. They don't need shoved down everybody's face in the media.
From religion perspective, I don't like the idea, okay? But unless, if there is a purpose, like I have said before, so if there is a good purpose, for example, for school purposes, or so, for a certain day or so, but as soon as it doesn't impact his behavior as a feminine, then I'm okay with that, you know, because I want my boy to stay a boy.
What do you think masculinity means?
Quite manly, strong, into sports, and like football. And
I see somebody that's buff and has muscles.
I think in years ago, masculinity meant this sort of alpha male type, if you like. Man up, that's the phrase you hear, isn't it? So
traditional sense of masculinity, you always tend to think of literally flexible muscles, that sort of caveman sort of instinct, alpha male.
And on the top of that, the behavior, you behave in a masculine way. Yes.
Like stronger power, being like kind of a leader kind of thing, innit?
Yeah.
Like you always got the boots within around other people and stuff.
I suppose the stereotypical words, it's strong, broad, shoulders, chiselled.
Yeah.
Emotionally strong as well.
Controlling.
Like that.
Hench up, as it were. That's why I'm buying a rowing machine. So
for me, masculinity, the defining word of that means anything that makes you happy to be a man.
In reality, it's probably more a case of actually showing a bit more maturity than that.
Because actually it could be, I suppose it's strength of mind.
Yeah.
He's strong, yes, who have muscles.
Like him. But not, I don't necessarily think all of that is true. But I think that's what it is. Yeah, that's it. That's the stereotype. Yeah. Or the perception.
Do you think you're masculine?
Yeah.
How? Yeah,
You? Oh yeah. What about you?
I don't know, bro. Yeah, I would say yes, but equally I don't see myself as a sort of like strong rugby player, superhero type. But yeah, I would say I consider myself masculine. Yeah.
like for me, I don't see myself as a masculine person.
Yes, I would say so.
In a certain way,
yeah. I think a lot of men sort of expect other men to be like that.
It is more important to women that a man is masculine than it is necessarily for me to be, or for maybe for males to see themselves as masculine.
For me, a man needs to be masculine if it's needed.
After hearing so many different opinions, it is safe to say we didn't always get the responses we expected.
Hi.
Hey!
Hi!
When we asked men if they thought they were masculine, we got a very different range of opinions.
And from the people we spoke to, we found that traditionally they thought masculinity was big and strong, but that's not necessarily how they felt. They thought that this was a stereotype, but it doesn't define being a man. So what does define being a man?
We're going to find out. So, we started by speaking to our expert Debbie regarding this issue. 1 in 8 men are reporting common mental health problems such as depression and anxiety.
In terms of gender roles, traditionally there's been a lot of talk about, being strong and being the powerful one, being in control. And men sometimes feel like they have to live up to that. It's kind of like, I need to be self-reliant. I need to be the one who's earning maybe the financial burdens, and you feel as a man that you need to carry that all on your shoulders. So there are lots of things to do with traditional expectations within society, I think, that mean that men put more pressure on themselves.
Mm-hmm. Does masculinity have something to do with why men aren't opening up? The pressure of being a man, man up, men can't cry, being the breadwinner, does that affect a man's mental health? Does being masculine mean you can't open up? Because if it does, why does anyone want to be masculine?
After speaking to people at BCU and seeing how their different backgrounds really influence their opinion on masculinity, we now want to directly compare the views of 2 different men and ask them questions about normalised masculinity that we still see within today's society. We went to speak to Curtis Hayes, a teaching student from Birmingham, and Stan Dias, a technical solutions architect from London. 2 different men with 2 different careers from 2 different generations. Let's find out what they think.
Do you think your masculinity has affected your career choice?
No. So I don't think being a man's necessarily affected my choice of career and where I've ended up. It was more a case of what I was interested in when I was younger, which was more around engineering and things like that. But then having said that, if you talk about stereotypes when you're bringing up children, I think in the past I was brought up with male toys, and hence that's maybe where the engineering pieces come from.
I think that my job is really a female-based job, primary school teaching. I don't think that my personal masculinity has affected my career choice. I think that it's important for children in schools, especially in primary schools, to have male sort of role models or males to talk to, or sort of aspirations of what they could become in future. So I think it is important for them to have that sort of masculine or masculinity around primary schools. But I don't think my own masculinity has affected my career choice.
Would you be happy if your wife kept her maiden name?
No.
Yes.
I think that it's quite traditional for the wife to take the husband's last name, and if we was going to start a family together, I'd want my family to be like under my surname. I'd feel a little bit emasculated maybe and offended for my wife to say no and keep her maiden name rather than take my last name and surname if we got married.
My wife has kept her name. It's not bothered me in the slightest. When I think about the practicalities of people having to change their names on bank cards and things like that, which you might have already had, passports, it's actually a bit of a ball ache. Whilst my wife has kept her name and it hasn't bothered me, I think my parents were probably a bit shocked by that. And I think it's a generational thing again in terms of what people expect and they accept in terms of relationships and things like that.
Would you be happy to be a stay-at-home dad?
Yes, absolutely. I think in the past that it would have been frowned upon. I think it's more acceptable in this day and age. But I still think as a stay-at-home dad, there's so few men that do it, I think it would still be quite odd.
I think that me personally, I'd feel less masculine and stuff if I was a stay-at-home dad. But if it was something that would mean that my wife or partner or whatever was achieving her dream job or something, then I'd obviously like let her do that and be a stay-at-home dad. But it would make me feel sort of less masculine, and I'd want to be the breadwinner for my family or something, so to speak. So yeah.
Do you think the man should pay for the first date?
Yes. I think that a man should pay for the first date, and I expect the man to pay for the first date because that's a man's job and a man's role, sort of thing, to pay for the date. But I do think that the woman should offer to pay because that shows a lot about the woman.
And I think part of that is just the way I've been brought up. So it depends on kids growing up now. I'm not sure whether that would quite be the same. I have lots of younger friends who don't necessarily do that. They tend to split the bill, but I think it's just a case of people's expectations changing over the years.
After speaking to Curtis and Stan, despite their differences, they both seem to have a similar opinion on masculinity, what it means, and how it affects society. So now we want to explore a different direction. Does a man's sexuality impact his view on masculinity? Through networking, we found Phil Oldershaw, the co-founder of Birmingham Pride and successful presenter and entrepreneur. Natalie went to speak to him talking all things masculinity.
So my name is Phil Oldershaw. I am a business development strategist within hospitality and also a presenter, so some would say a man of two hats. I've run an array of different bars and clubs. And one of the big clubs being the Nightingale Club, which I had for 11 years. Whilst I had that, I co-founded Birmingham Pride, and we launched the first Birmingham Pride in 1997. And generally hospitality has been my background. My skill set has been quite varied and exciting over the years.
Have you always been comfortable at being open about your sexuality?
I guess being open about your sexuality is a very personal thing. Times have certainly changed. Going back to when I first came out, it was still a bit of a taboo subject, and it was the late 80s. And I remember coming out to my parents was a big thing because obviously they'd seen me with girls over the years for what was the norm. I mean, I wanted to fight the cause and help the gay community become more well-known and respected for just being people. I actually think we live in really funny times because everything seems to be categorised. You're old, you're young, you're straight, you're gay, you're black, you're white, and you know, humanity loves to put people into brackets.
With your experience of working with Pride, do you think that people are more willing to speak about their sexuality rather than like now rather than in the past?
I think times have changed a lot. Birmingham Pride and prides up and down the country. When we first launched Birmingham Pride, I remember police, council, they didn't want to know. So we made it happen, and I remember we thought we might get 3,000 or 4,000 people. I remember how amazed and overwhelmed we were by the excitement of getting so many like-minded people and their friends to attend a gay pride event in Birmingham. So 1997, to get 15,000 people. So in answer to that question, have I seen it change a lot? I think it was always there, but now it's a lot more comfortable for people to express who they are.
What would you say that masculinity means to you?
I think masculinity is linked to men based on mindset. So for me, masculinity isn't linked to men. Masculinity is defined by the mind. So how I perceive somebody is how I perceive somebody. And I always say the great thing about perception is it's unique and individual. So how I see somebody could be totally different to how you see somebody and how our friends on camera see people. The old style of mindset is that it is a man-based thing.
Okay, so would you say that you are masculine? And if so, why?
Would I say that I'm masculine? Well, that's a really interesting question. Yes, definitely. But I'm also feminine. I would say anybody can be masculine. I've seen women that are masculine in the sense that, you know, when it takes the opportunity and you've got the moment where you need to step up and be assertive about things or take control or lead, you know, I think it's more about being honest with yourself and feeling comfortable in your own skin again. So I just a bit like the work that I do, I would like to wear two hats. I am both masculine and feminine.
After interviewing Phil, I discussed with the girls further into our investigation.
Hiya!
Hi!
Hey!
So something I found really interesting about this episode is the man v man section, because I thought that from a generational perspective, Stan would have much more traditional views, but that actually wasn't the case. They both had quite similar views, and when they actually did disagree, it was Curtis, the younger guy, who tended to have that more traditional view, which I just thought was really interesting because I didn't expect it to be that way. But as well, completely irregardless of their answers, even just the questions that we were asking them about, you know, being a breadwinner or paying for the first date, it's really clear that masculinity is ingrained within today's society, whether we notice it or not.
Yeah, and I think following on from that, when we spoke to Phil, something that he said that changed, you know, not just the masculinity episode, but our whole outlook on the whole series was that masculinity is a mindset. We all have masculinity in us. We all have femininity in us. If masculine is seen as strong and tough and being feminine is seen as, you know, caring and opening up about your feelings, then maybe if we all embraced the masculine and the feminine within us all, we'd all have a better mental health.
Well, coming back to the question, does being masculine mean you can't open up about your feelings? Yes, a lot of people would agree, but opening up and facing your problems shows way more strength that could be found in any gym. In our last episode, we investigate men's mental health and how our three topics, body image, lag culture and masculinity, all contribute to this.